It is recording now.
Okay, cool. I like it.
First, we do that
Welcome
thing
back.
where we're talking and it goes into the intro.
Yeah. It's us. We're back.
I got my rainbow goldfish with me.
It's up. Oh, frick. What flavor is that one?
It's rainbow.
Restart, dude.
No,
Either
don't
way.
restart.
Keep
That
going.
Dude, that was a candid recording, Dallas. Come on.
Oh, dude.
Okay,
Now I
just to
have to restart.
I feel
preface
like-
for everyone, this is our first time doing this like all away from each other. We're doing this over Discord, and there's just different lag and exciting
But-
things that come with not sitting with each other.
This isn't the first time we're recording this episode, to be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
it's gonna be a
had
little different.
take one.
we had
didn't go
some-
so well.
We tried recording it in person when we were all in Arizona, and it just we did not have the required materials. We did not have facilities for such a recording. It was pretty bad. Listening to it, you could not hear most of what I was saying, and Dallas sounded like he was in a trash can. So,
Which I was not, in fact, but it did sound like it.
well, that's jury's still out. He could have been in a trash can, and we didn't know for sure. But we elected to delete previous recording of said episode and try again. And so here we are. Hopefully the audio is better.
Yeah. It's gonna be a little bit tricky because there's a little bit of an audio delay for us, so we're gonna figure this out as we go through the episode. But
I got my
Today-
Diet Dr. Pepper.
we are gonna be talking about our top 5 favorite movies. And to be clear, this isn't our, the top 5 best movies that have ever come out, but it's just our 5 personal favorite movies. So we're gonna go through in an orderly fashion.
They
Sharon
just
are-
might be the best movies, though. They just might be the best movies ever made.
They are to me.
That's all that matters.
Something to jump in and
So-
add real quick. Just for me personally, there's a few like things that I did to like kind of like rank my movies. And so the different like focuses that I had are on the cinematography, like how good it looks visually, the soundtrack, are we vibing, are we jamming the whole time? The feels being like, did this cause me to feel emotion in some way, or did I leave the movie feeling some type of way? And then the last one being nostalgia. For me, nostalgia is a big thing in the way of like, dang, like brings back memories and kind of positive things based on the movie or whatever I was watching. So those are some of the like keys that I used to make this list.
Pretty good. I would say for my list, it was that, but I didn't really consciously make the decisions I made based off of those categories specifically. It was more just like yeah, that feels right at number 4, or yeah, that feels good at number 2. Just as a movie overall, the way that I think of the movies that I ranked. But looking through my list, I can definitely see that, the number 2 has a better soundtrack than number 4 or something like that. So, all important things to consider. But
Yeah, I'd say. Oh, sorry. What were you saying?
no, go for it, Dallas. You're up.
Oh, I was just gonna say I just rated my movies based on the experience I had while watching them.
Amen.
And the rewatchability, huge for me. I feel like there's some movies where I was like, dang, I really like that movie, but looking back, I was like, I also haven't watched that movie in like 5 years. So a lot of these movies that I put on my list are ones I've gone back to time and time again, and I had a good time watching them.
Yes, sir. Well, I can start us off with my number 5. My number 5 is Journey to the Center of the Earth. This one for me, a lot of nostalgia, because this is a movie that I watched while I was kind of growing up, kind of one of those like first more adult type movies, more live action. In addition to that, like it's just a cool movie. Like I really like the tie-in to like how it's based off of the book, and they're like, oh dang, it's all real. I will say the CGI isn't amazing, but for its time, it lived up, and it's just a solid movie all around, and I enjoyed watching it. So that'll rest my number 5.
To be clear, this isn't the one that has The Rock in it, correct?
No, this is
This
the
is the one with
the guy
what's
that
that actor?
Brendan
Tarzan, the
Fraser.
guy that plays Tarzan.
The guy who plays the guy in The One Thing. What's
Go
it
to the
called?
jungle.
No.
Okay.
Um. Shoot, Hunger Games.
The
Hunger
Mummy?
Games.
Hunger Games.
Yeah, PETA.
What?
Isn't that the kid?
Oh,
Oh, I thought you were talking about the main guy.
No, no,
yeah.
no. The kid.
That threw
Right?
me for a
Yeah,
loop. I'm gonna lie.
Am I crazy?
No, the kid.
Well, he-
Yeah, they're the same
one.
actor.
Okay, I thought so.
Oh, he's in both of them?
Is he in the second movie?
I think so. Yeah,
can't
I don't
remember.
think
I don't-
Brendan Fraser is.
I don't
Yeah,
think
I
so
gotta
either.
I gotta dock the first movie for not having The Rock in it, but overall I think it's a pretty good movie.
Yeah. Okay.
Honestly,
Dawes.
didn't have the heart either. Kevin Hart. L movie.
That's yeah. But it's pretty good though. All right, my number 5 is a movie that I really enjoyed, mostly because I watched it in theaters. My number 5 is A Quiet Place. This movie was directed by one of my favorite Hollywood actors slash directors, John Krasinski. I think that guy's pretty cool. Made with him and his wife, and I just thought it was such a cool movie because I remember watching in theaters, and the movie theater was really quiet, and the whole movie is really quiet. So you could just hear a needle drop in the theaters, and I remember that really just being a unique theater experience for me. So I really liked it. And I don't usually love like the scary suspense, movies, but this is one that I thoroughly enjoyed, especially because of its direction and what's that word? Kind of just the idea of like the family, being centered on the family and their need for survival, and kind of the relationships getting through that. So that's my number 5.
Pretty solid movie. I vividly remember seeing that in theaters the first time. It definitely had me on the edge of my seat, silently on the edge of my seat. Okay,
They should not have sold popcorn.
yeah, it was honestly kind of a stressful movie to watch, not just because of the actual movie, but because I felt like if I coughed, sneezed, breathed, or blinked, that people would scold me for making any noise at all. So, but it was good. It's a good movie. Okay,
They were
my
just
number
trying to
5.
survive.
Yeah, they were just trying to survive. And so was I in the theater. All right, my number 5. You ready for this? My number 5 is the movie Rango. Released
What?
in
Rango.
2011, baby. Oh, yeah. All
That's
right. Now,
wild.
listen. This
Good
movie
old Johnny Depp.
is incredible. Perhaps a little bit of a controversial movie, but I grew up on this movie. We would go to my grandma's house in Scottsdale growing up, and she had movies on, DVD, Blu-ray, and this was a favorite. This is one of the movies that we would just watch all the time, mostly because half the time it was already in the DVD player, so we didn't want to find another movie, and we just would watch this one. My grandpa loved this movie too, so I grew up watching this movie pretty often. It's like an animated movie that is about a chameleon who gets lost in the desert and stumbles upon a town of miscreants, people living out in the desert, kind of like a Wild West type thing. I'm a sucker for
Apache Junction.
Yeah, basically Apache Junction. If any of you Arizonans know, Apache Junction is desolate. I'm a sucker for Wild West themed movies, and this is a great adaptation of that. I really like the storyline. I really like the character arc of Rango, and I really love kind of the I don't know how to say. It's like a little bit of a edgier animated movie. I feel like it has a little darker themes, but it's also still very captivating. And I think it's just a great movie. The animation style is very unique and interesting. It's not like super, cute and bubbly like a lot of things are, but it's a great movie. So that's my number 5.
That's a good one.
One of the greatest westerns, I would say.
Well, it's in the top 5 greatest.
It's also probably one of the only westerns I've seen, but it's a good one.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Sounds like there's foreshadowing in what Tyler said, but who knows?
What? I would never foreshadow. I would never foreshadow. I don't even know what
Of course
that means.
not. That's true. Well, I will go into my number 4, and my number 4 is Ready Player One. I'm sure there's a lot of people that have seen this, a lot of people that haven't. It's kind of, I don't know, very niche to the pop culture homies out there. But this
It's a
one,
very Gen Z movie.
very true. Yeah.
And we are that, so no shame.
I don't know. I would rather be a millennial. No, I'm just kidding. Gen Z for the win. But
You don't want to be a millennial, man. Millennials are the worst.
millennials are the new boomers. True.
They just complain.
But the reason that I like Ready Player One is it kind of checks off all the boxes in what I like in a movie. Really cool cinematography. You're taken across a very vast universe that is the Oasis with a lot of pop culture references, including The Shining, different games. It's just really cool. Soundtrack, super fire. A lot of hits from the 80s, 90s. Right on my sweet spot. I really love those songs. And then a lot of nostalgia. There's a like hidden pop culture movie, so it's kind of fun to just kind of see and recognize those different things. And yeah, it's a solid number 4. I love this one.
I remember really enjoying watching that movie in the theaters. Like, I think I don't remember. Did we all watch it together for the first time? Were we there together, or can't remember if I went with like my family or something. But
I don't recall. I'm not sure. I know we have definitely watched this movie together, though. Maybe in theaters.
I know we've watched it at your house, Dallas, at some point, maybe multiple times, a long time ago. But
Yeah.
I remember coming out of this movie and being like, "Wow, that was like really good video game movie." Normally, video game movies feel like super cliche and cringe, you could say. But that was one that I actually felt like had a good plot and it was like over the top, like intentionally over the top in like an artistic way that I appreciated and had lots of callbacks that I enjoyed. I know that my dad absolutely hates this movie, but that is because he absolutely hates video games as, on principle. So if anything has to do with a video game that isn't Punch-Out, he hates it, which is fine.
Yeah, that's just how it is. My number those dang millennials. Shout out to 60% of our audience probably being millennials. We love you.
To be clear, my dad is not a millennial.
He's a boomer.
They're Gen X, I think, is the
Oh yeah,
proper
Gen
one.
X. My bad.
Yeah, I think that's true.
It's like that one in between boomer and millennial.
Yeah, I think that's right. My number 4 is very similar to Carter's number 4 in the way that it's a big pop culture movie full of references. My number 4 is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I love this movie because number 1, it's hilarious. The cinematography is pretty good. Like I love like the edits and transitions and kind of how they shot the movie. The cast is awesome. You're just watching it and they just keep bringing out one cool actor after another. Has Michael Cera as the main actor and has Chris Evans in it. Brie Larson, just a bunch of other famous actors that you probably know if you like watching movies. So this is a movie that I just really enjoy and one that I grew up watching. I guess I really grew up watching it, but one that I watched with my family a lot and my cousins. And Yeah, well, no, I really enjoy it, especially because I know a lot of the references that the movie makes.
This is a movie I have not seen, so I have no comments whatsoever about this movie, but I'm sure it's incredible.
A movie that you need to watch at some point.
It's on the list.
Highly recommend.
It's on my
It's a
list of
long
things to
list.
watch. The list is ever growing and never gets smaller. Mostly because I
Yeah.
never watch anything on it. So, but that's okay.
That is the hard part about it.
Yeah. I'm not a very good list finisher. Okay. My number 4. It's my turn, right?
Yeah.
All right, number 4. I've got a Marvel movie. I've got Captain America, Winter Soldier, released in 2014. Number 2 in the Captain America series. This movie is awesome. Visually, the fight scenes are incredible. Action-packed movie. It's just very entertaining to watch visually. The soundtrack and the suspense music is all very well placed and chosen. The character development for Steve Rogers, bringing Bucky back into the scene as the Winter Soldier, is like one of the greatest, in my opinion, examples of bringing back somebody who was thought to be dead and actually making it a very good storyline. Sometimes I think a lot of media, movies and other things will do this trope where they'll bring back a character that died, and it was like an emotional important thing for this character to die, and they'll kind of undo all of that by bringing it back, try to get some fan service. Usually it doesn't go very well, but it went really well in this movie. The relationship between Cap and Bucky, seeing that play out, and seeing Captain America, have to fight for what he believes is right and fight for his friends, even though he's got the entirety of the world, hunting him. So it's just a great movie, and it's my favorite Marvel movie. So that's my number 4.
I can 100% agree with this statement. Probably top. You could do a completely another podcast about the ranking of Marvel movies, but Captain America, Winter Soldier, probably top 2 to 3, maybe top 1 of Marvel movies. Such a good one, and I agree with everything that was said, especially the fight scenes. That opening scene on the boat, so good.
So good.
Just the dialogue, the fight, it's all gas, straight fire.
It's so well shot.
It's what you love to see from an action movie. It's just so good.
Yeah, it's everything you want in a Marvel movie, perfectly well done. And I love it so much because it doesn't have like the the typical like superhero like Thor with his magical hammer, and Wanda Maximoff with her like red powers or whatever, telekinesis and stuff. It's not like a superpower movie. It's just like a super soldier movie, which is like cool because it's
A little more grounded,
closer to reality type thing. So I like it a lot. I think, just really quick, in the top 3 Marvel movies, objectively, I think Infinity War is probably the best one, just on an objective basis, or Guardians of the Galaxy. Those two probably fighting for number 1 objectively. But, I mean, personally, I love Winter Soldier. But objectively, I still would think it's like top 5 at least.
100%. All right. We'll move on to my number 3. And this one, honestly, such a good movie. One of the big reasons why I love this movie is how active it kept me. In this movie, active in the way that my mind was active. And this movie is Knives Out. I love this movie. So for those of you that haven't seen it, essentially this is Clue, the board game, the movie. Obviously, not same characters, and obviously there's plot. But it's such a good movie, such a good mystery. There's a lot of twists and turns, and it keeps you on your toes the whole time. And something to add as well, at the end, obviously, you kind of see the pieces fall together, and you kind of see like, oh, okay, this is the person that did this action that caused this thing. And something that's kind of cool is it's not like other like mystery movies in the way that like there's a ton of like unseen actions where you could never figure it out yourself. Like in this movie, like everything that happens is like seen on screen. It just might take a very, very cautious eye to recognize, like, oh, I did remember seeing that happen and kind of seeing all the pieces fall together. So, 10 out of 10 movie, fantastic cinematography, and I think the cast just knocked it out of the park. So, definitely a solid place for my number 3.
Yeah. So this is actually my number 3 as well. What? This is crazy.
Ain't
I
no way.
I
Wow.
actually I love this movie too. Oh, I think Carter did a great job explaining it. I'm trying to think what else to add. I thought that the way that they presented the twist was very unique, especially with things like having
Spoil
Martha,
it.
the maid. Yeah, spoiler alerts. If you didn't watch this movie, go stop and watch it right now. But Martha has like something like I don't know what she has, but whenever she lies, she throws up. So they kind of use that as a way to progress the story and kind of create some twists and turns. So I thought that the movie itself was very unique, and I do really like Carter said, that if you're watching careful enough, then you can piece it together before it kind of has the big reveal and see if you're right or not. So very captivating movie, very like beautiful, just great to watch, fun to watch. Um, so I agree with your number 3 because that's my number 3 as well.
Booyah.
It is like a really good movie. Really, really entertaining to watch the first time. Okay, my number 3 is a
Knives
classic.
Out.
Oh yeah, nope. Got him. All right, my number 3 is the 2000 Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Starring George
Classic.
Clooney, Tim Nelson, and John Turturro. This is a great movie. This is probably one of the older movies on our lists here. Came out 24 years ago, almost 25 years ago. So this movie is older than us. And I saw it for the first time. All of us saw it for the first time together, actually. Um, Dallas had an assignment in one of his classes to watch this movie. And so we were hanging out and we watched it together. And I mean, we just loved it. First sight, just loved this movie. It's a classic movie. It's a kind of like a, I don't know, not like a Western, but I don't know, early 1900s representation of or adaptation of the Odyssey, um, by Homer. Is that right?
Sounds right.
Yes.
Right. So it's a familiar story, but it's just done in such a funny way, with a lot of really awesome references, and the soundtrack is incredible. Such a good soundtrack. Very good actors, top notch acting in the movie, and I mean, really, the thing that does it for me is the soundtrack. My grandpa, growing up, played the guitar, or when I was growing up, he played the guitar, and he would sing the songs from this movie, like Big Rock Candy Mountain. I like grew up listening to him play that song on his guitar when I was a little kid. And so when when I first watched this movie, like all those memories started flooding back to me. And so whenever I think of, whenever I watch this movie, I think of my grandpa, and that's a really special thing for me. So this is a great movie. It is one of my favorites, number 3.
I gotta add that it's just a very quotable movie as well. A lot of good one-liners that came from that movie that we like to throw around quite a bit.
Oh, we quote this movie often, probably on average once every other day.
Okay, Tyler, give us your favorite quote.
Let me think about this. Let's see. You gotta love. I mean, we said this one today, Dallas. We were like, I don't know what we were doing, but we'll throw it out there. We'll just say, Oh man, this place is a geographical anomaly. 2 weeks from everywhere. I'm a Dapper Dan man.
I'm a
Or
Dapper Dan man.
what's a good
What a
one?
tight spot.
Dang, we're in a
We're in
tight
a
spot.
tight spot.
That's a good one. It's a classic. Yeah,
I'd
there's
say
so
more
many
of
good
more
ones.
of the challenge is naturally weaving
It's
it
a
into
good movie.
conversation.
Yeah, we don't really weave it into conversation. We just say it.
We just throw it out.
Just say it whenever there's not anything being said currently.
Usually
good
once
time.
at least.
If you just like did a recording of everything that Dallas and I said to, because Dallas and I, full disclosure, I mean, context, we lived together in Utah, and Carter's about to move to Idaho. And so Dallas and I spend a decent amount of time together every day. And if you just listen to like everything that we said to each other throughout the day, at least 60% of it would just be unsolicited random quotes from memes, movies, and like random YouTube videos and stuff that we watch. And it's just complete nonsense.
You need a lot of context to understand our conversations.
And most of them don't have context either.
That's true. That's true.
So it's a good time. But this movie is one of the sources for those conversations and quotes.
Amen. All right, moving on to my number 2. I will say this is probably my most like connected top 5 of the list, but this one goes to Treasure Planet. It's my only, I guess technically Ready Player One would kind of be animated, but Treasure Planet is the only fully animated movie on this list. And if you haven't seen it, it's an older Disney movie. I think it came out in 2002, like right around when I was born. But it is so good. Tons of nostalgia, obviously. But one of the great things as well is it is like just a very like a lot of not adult themes, but it's more of an adult movie. Like there's a lot of really intense action scenes. There's betrayal. There's just a fantastic story to this kids movie essentially. So to me, it kind of shows the degrade of Disney over the years, but it also shows that there is much good potential for a live action adaptation if Disney ever gets their crap together. So solid number 2 for me. I love this movie. Michael J. Fox voices the main character and does a fantastic job. And all around, just a fantastic movie. So if you haven't seen it, would recommend giving it a watch.
I love it. Yeah, I have not seen that movie since I was a wee lad. So I don't remember a lot that happens in it, but I remember thinking it's a very exciting movie.
Yeah, I have not seen that movie. End of statement. So I'm adding it to my
Period.
list.
Um, all right. Great number 2. My number 2 is also similar in the sense that this one is also fully animated. This is my my Marvel pick. This movie is Into the Spider-Verse.
Yo, that's a good one.
Fire
I love
movie.
this movie for a lot of reasons. Great soundtrack. It's just very fun to watch. A lot of little interesting details in the animation. Like, for example, they animated Miles in a different frame rate from before he was like bitten to after he was like experienced as Spider-Man to show kind of that smooth transition in becoming that hero. A lot of little things like that I really enjoy from this movie. I think it's very inspiring, very fun watch. My favorite Marvel movie, um, and that's my number 2.
Excellent movie. All right. My number 2. And then we'll talk about some honorable mentions real quick before we get into our number 1s. But my number 2 is a movie that I really like, but it's in my number 2 spot, not just because of the movie itself, but because of what this movie represents. My number 2 is Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. This came out in 2016. You know, kind of in the middle of that time where Disney, Star Wars was making the sequels, the sequel trilogy. I won't talk about those because if I do, I will get upset, and I don't want to get
Wait,
upset.
why are you upset by the sequel trilogy, Tyler?
Oh man,
You're opening a can of worms there, Carter. Be careful.
we're gonna have to make another episode if we if you give me you don't get me don't get me started on that.
Solo
Anyways.
episode.
Yeah, I'll just talk about how much I hate the sequels for by myself for an hour. This movie is great. It's just about a bunch of new characters that we weren't familiar with in other Star Wars movies. And I just love it because it shows that it is possible to explore the world of Star Wars outside of the main characters that we were familiar with and make content that is good and adds depth to the world of Star Wars. I love Star Wars. Star Wars is one of my favorite things. One of my favorite, media to consume. I've watched a lot of the shows, almost all of them, probably all the movies, and I consider myself somewhat of a critic of Star Wars. And this is one of the great Star Wars movies, standalone and as a part of the Star Wars franchise. So this is a great movie. It represents my love for Star Wars, and I think it's a little bit of a masterpiece on its own. So this is my number 2 for sure.
Rogue One was made after Disney acquired the rights to Star Wars, right?
Correct.
Yeah, definitely the best thing they've done for Star Wars since taking it over.
Certainly true. I mean, they did Rogue One. They did the sequels trilogy, which really quickly I will say that the first of the sequels is not bad. It had hope, and when I first saw it, I felt this could be good. Could be good. Wasn't blowing me away, but it's okay. And then they made Last Jedi, worst movie I've ever seen. And then they made I can't remember what the last one's called. It's not Return of the Jedi. It's like
Is it
Rise of Skywalker, I think. Rise of Skywalker, that's it. Also terrible movie. So but they also made the Solo movie, the Han Solo movie, which is okay. I wasn't too upset about it. I thought it was good. For what it was, I thought it was good.
It was a fun watch.
So overall, Disney, Star Wars, mostly mediocre to bad, but there are a few things that are good and some things that are awesome. So that's a conversation for another time. But
shout out to Rian Johnson.
Yeah. Yep.
Brothers holding down the fort. All right. So, jumping into our honorable mentions, I'm going to quick fire some at y'all, and then I might take a couple of seconds afterwards to kind of give a couple of reasons why. But at the top of my honorable mentions, obviously, I have to give homage to Guardians of the Galaxy. I think a lot of people that know me would have thought this would have been my number 1. Sorry to disappoint. It is not. I love this movie. Star-Lord Peter Quill, probably one of my favorite characters of all time. Obviously, great cinematography, great soundtrack, a lot of nostalgia, good feels. And
Carter's username is Star-Lord right now. That's literally his name. I'm looking at it right now. I'm reading it. It says Star-Lord on there. So
that is a truthful statement. I think my love of Star-Lord came. This is a huge throwback, but Dallas, were you on that football team with Brayson and me and Tyler?
I don't think that I was.
All like,
no.
Okay.
It was just you, me, and Brayson, I think.
Okay. Well, throwback to 14-year-old us or whatever we were. We were on this flag football team, and Brayson, our other friend, he's a large man. He's very tall. He had been on this team before, and he's like, you guys should do it with us, and we did. And one thing that this team had done every year is like instead of having like our last names on the jersey, they would put like Marvel characters or superheroes. I'm like, dang, that's dope. And so when they told us they were doing it, I'm like, dang, that's sick. I want to be Hawkeye. Because at the time, Hawkeye, I'm like, that's cool. Bows and arrows and exploding. That's sick.
I like that.
I like that. Um, I had been told that name was already taken, so I'm like, crap. What am I gonna do? And they're like, what? I just saw this new movie, Guardians of the Galaxy. I'll be Star Lord. And so I was Star Lord for that season, and like I had a really good season. Like I made some really good plays, really good catches. And I remember at this one point, I dove for a catch to grab someone's like flag, and someone was like, "Yo, it was like you had like his rocket boots on." I'm like, "Dang, it kind of is." And like I don't know,
like
for
that.
whatever reason, it was just like, "Dang." And someone was like, "You kind of look like him." I'm like, "No, I don't, but thank you." And like I don't know, for some reason it just kind of stuck. I'm like, dang, that is a super cool character actually. So that's kind of the roots of why I like Star Lord is just I got to be him for a couple of weeks in them. So that's why. But great movie. I didn't go quick fire, but so I'll go quick fire for the rest of my honorable mentions. But Prince Caspian, I love the Narnia series. Fantastic. Shout out to C.S. Lewis. Hunt for the Wilder People had to be mentioned. Such a good movie. Fantastic soundtrack.
Gotta talk
Cinematography,
about it.
amazing. I'll turn it over to you guys because I know you guys want to talk about it as well.
Gotta talk about Hunt for the Wilder People. This is a
How
staple.
could you not?
This is a
True.
staple movie. This movie is representative of a genre of movies that are near and dear to our hearts. You know, on my honorable mentions list, Nacho Libre, similar vibe, similar, style of movie. It's just so funny, so rewatchable, so quotable. Just has a special place in my soul and always will.
Shout out Jack Black.
Gotta love the New Zealand accent in Hunt for the Wilder People as well.
It's just pure comedy. I mean, it's just
It's
you can't-
hilarious. So
you can't
quotable.
find anything better. Oh yeah, surely.
Every line of that movie can be quoted, like hands down. There's not a single like scene where you can't quote something. Like it is so good.
He's
Yeah, I'd
tricky
say
like
that one is-
Jesus.
He's tricky like that, Jesus. Ricky
There's
Baker.
another door.
Ooh. That
Burger
funeral
rings,
scene is probably one of my favorite scenes of all
That
time.
was so good.
probably the
Oh
best
man.
cinematography man has ever known. All right, going into the rest of
It's
my list,
top notch.
I have to mention Lord of the Rings, specifically Return of the King. Such a good movie. Hits you so hard in your feels. Dallas, you guys can't see us, but we're on a video call, and Dallas is scratching his head to signify that he hasn't seen it. We
He's
just gotta
scratching his
change-
head in shame and embarrassment.
well, I wouldn't say that. I mean,
Well, I did.
Okay, I will
45% true.
Fair. I will say though, since our last time recording this, we had a little segment where we talked about The Hobbit, and I will say I did do my homework. I have now seen the first 3/4 of the first Hobbit, so
And
I liked it. It's good.
it's
I like
good, huh?
what's that
It's good.
actor's name? It's the guy from Sherlock. I don't know his name, but he does a good job. And Gollum is really well done. in it, I
Cumberbatch.
think.
No,
No,
not
that's
Cumberbatch. It's
that's Sherlock Holmes.
the guy
Watson, the guy that plays Watson.
who plays Bilbo,
Oh,
Yeah,
right?
I forgot his name, but he kills
Oh.
it.
I mean, yeah. I don't remember what his name is, but he's really good.
Yeah, so super solid. I love Lord of the Rings. And then my last movie is Klaus, from Netflix. It's a Disney movie. A lot of you probably seen it. I don't know, but I like it because it's probably one of the only movies to date that has made me cry. For those, I'll quick recap. This guy, he's entitled and rich, and his dad is like, "You got to make a living on your own." So he sends him to this desolate, like Russian town. He's like, "All right," and his dad's like a post office dude. And he's like, "All right, deliver this many packages, and you can come home." And so it's essentially this story of how he's delivering packages and just trying to get it over with, and he kind of learns to love these people and kind of help them like bond and come together as one. And obviously, it can't be a Christmas movie without some version of Santa Claus, but just a super solid movie. I don't know. You'd think a Netflix original would not be an honorable mention, but this one lived to see the day, so it will live there in infamy.
I just thought of this
List.
since you mentioned that. Do you guys cry often during movies? Not often, but
I could probably count on one hand the number of movies that have made me cry upon watching them. So, no, I don't think so. I mean, I can think of just right now, I can probably think of 3 movies that I know, like, I remember crying to the first time I saw them. And it wasn't like I wasn't like sobbing. It was just like brought some tears to my
Dang.
eyes. I had I had some sad eyes, but yeah, so no, not really.
yeah, I think that's fair. I think I'm the same way where I can count probably on one hand. The
Call me
earliest, have you
call
guys
me
ever?
heartless.
Hey,
Heartless.
it is what it is.
Hey.
I didn't mean it. You don't mean it. Do you mean it?
He's take it back.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's one of
Have you
my
guys
favorites.
seen the Wizards of Waverly Place movie?
Yes,
You guys
that
seen this
is on the
movie?
list. That's on the list.
No way.
It actually
That
is.
is
Dude,
one of
the part where they're I don't remember any of their names, but where the Selena Gomez is standing in the field with like her brother who's the last one and he disappears.
dude. That's one of the earliest movies I ever remember crying at. Was
Dude,
that scene
that was
of that
actual
movie?
tears when that happened. I'm
Dude, that
looking up the
was.
clip. I'm looking up the clip.
I had the sad
Oh
eyes
dang.
during that one.
I had sad eyes for sure.
Yeah, sorry to throw us off. I just thought of that because you mentioned that Klaus made you a little emotional, but I do like when a movie can have that sort of effect on me. That was one of the first movies I remember ever like crying to when I was a young lad. Um, okay, let's see here. All right, I'll hop into my honorable mentions list real quick, kind of to shoot these off as well. Hunt for the Wilder People, got to mention it. Some other movies, Fantastic Mr. Fox,
Classic.
great
Love
movie.
Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson film, What's Not to Love. It's just the right amount of weird and awesome, just super fun. Oh Brother Where Art Thou is on my honorable mentions list. Lego Batman on my honorable mentions list. This movie I think is
Yes, sir.
hilarious. Cannot judge me. If you have not seen this movie, you have to go watch it before you say
Literally
fucking
God's
smack.
gift to man.
Did you guys
God
see that one for the
bless
first time
America.
like recently?
Yeah, well, I did. Dallas showed it to me
Really?
like a couple months ago, and
Dang, I saw
it-
that baddie in theaters.
It
You're not a
changed
true
my
fan.
life. Well, I was uncultured and unaware. I was an ignorant young man, okay, and I was taught. I was enlightened, and it changed my life. It changed my perspective on my life. I was listening this morning as I was walking to class to a talk by President Nelson, who was about to turn 100, by the way, on Monday, which is just crazy. But it was entitled "Think Celestial," and I thought, wow, Lego Batman has changed the way I think celestially. If
That
my
pivot
life
was crazy. I did not know where you were going with that.
if my life celestially, eternally, is just as good as the hour and a half that how my life was the hour and a half I was watching Lego Batman, then it's all worth it.
Life is good when you're watching this movie.
So
If you're having sad eyes, if you're having a bad day, you just gotta watch this movie or watch a clip, and I'll have you dying laughing, and then balance restored.
Oh yeah. Call Me a Child. I
Amen.
don't care. That movie is funny.
It is a funny movie. Okay, let's see. The last, actually, 2 more honorable mentions. Remember the Titans, great sports movie, and then also this really old Disney movie called Heavyweights. This is a movie.
yeah.
Have you seen this, Carter?
Yes, I saw that for the first time with Brayson. Actually, it's classic.
No way. It's a great
Oh my
movie.
gosh.
Every summer, me and all my cousins would go over to my grandparents' house to spend the night, and we'd watch this movie, and we could
It's
all
got
quote the entire movie.
50% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Hey, it's not every day
We do
you get to
not
see
care.
Ben
It is a
Stiller
great
in exercise clothes.
That's true.
Exactly.
He's looking
Very
mighty good.
quotable, funny old movie.
1995. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta watch
That's
that
yeah.
one. It's a
Before
good
I
date
was
movie.
before I was a thought.
People also ask, is Heavyweights Kid appropriate?
You know, I'd say so.
I don't know. Lots changed in what 43 years or whatever year you said it was from.
What is the name of the fat camp in Heavyweights? Man, questions I don't have the answer to. All right, that's is that your list, Dallas?
That's the list.
All right, I mean, a lot of redundancies. I'm not gonna restate the ones that have already been talked about. All of the Cars movies, Cars franchise is in my honorable mentions. I'd say my favorite of the three is definitely number one. Then number two and number three is like okay. So mostly Cars 1 and 2. Let's see. McFarland USA. Great movie. I almost put it in my
Good one.
top 5. It is one of the movies that I remember crying a little bit in the theaters watching this movie. It's a sports movie, and I'm a sucker for a good sports movie. It's probably my favorite sports movie, and it's very inspiring and it's a great movie. Emperor's New Groove. Holy cow. Masterpiece.
Gasser.
Such a good movie. Such a good movie. Tangled, also a great animated movie. And then I have to put this in here because it is a great movie. It's not personally one of my favorites, but I feel like we do have to talk about it. Top Gun Maverick.
Your
Gotta
dad
talk
would have
about
a fit if you didn't talk about it.
it. I know that's what we're talking about it for. I when I got home from my mission, this was one of the first things that I was required to do is watch this movie. And my dad watched it with me. And he had already seen it about 5 times probably by the time that he watched it with me. And he just had the time of his life. And it was a great movie. I had a good time too. It was the first movie I saw after my mission. So after 2 years of not having watched the movies, this was the first one I saw, and it's a good movie. I did enjoy it. I know that my dad has watched it half a dozen times. I'm pretty sure Dallas's dad has watched it about a dozen times. And I know Carter's dad has watched it multiple times and loves it too. So it's a good
Definitely
movie.
good. I like it a lot. I watched this the day after I got home from my mission, and it definitely lived up to the expectations. Better than the first one. First one's boring. Dallas, you haven't seen this one, have you?
Really?
Or have you seen it now?
The first you didn't like the first movie? The original Top Gun?
I mean, obviously it's good, and like there's some classic moments, but compared
You
to the
gotta watch the
second
second
one,
Dallas.
the second one is just so much better. Like surprisingly, like usually
The way that-
sequels don't live up.
Yeah. The way that the second one starts is really good. Like a really, really great start to a movie. And yeah, it's a great movie. I really like it. I do like it better than the first one as well.
Yeah, which is what. So yeah, as I've been called out, I have not seen Top Gun Maverick yet. It is on the watch.
Sorry.
That's very top of the watch list.
It is an ever-growing wedge that is splitting Dallas and his dad farther and farther apart in their relationship.
You might be out of the family soon.
He likes.
His dad is just hovering with his pen over the will, just ready to scratch him out.
Oh yeah, he likes to come down on me about that. So, Dad, if you're listening to this, don't worry. Hopefully, by the time you've listened to this, I'll watch this movie. But I do remember watching the original movie with my dad when I was growing up because the original is one of my dad's favorite movies. Bunch of good lines from that one. So, with that being said, I need to watch the second movie, and I'll give it a watch because I've heard nothing but good things. So,
Good.
Good. It's a great movie.
top of the list.
All right, who wants to go first?
All right, before we hop into our number ones, I need to talk about something. We didn't talk about this in the first one, but I have a new number one pet peeve, and it has to go along with movies. I hate, despise, spit upon 2-part movies. You've got to be kidding me. The reason,
like a part one of a movie that leaves you on a cliffhanger,
Like
and then you have to wait
Dune?
for the part
Yes.
two.
okay, Dune
Like
aside, I think Dune gets
Harry
pushed to the
Potter,
side.
Harry Potter, in the Deathly Hallows Part One and Deathly Hallows Part Two.
If I'd seen it, probably. But the reason I bring it
Gosh
up is
dang it, Carter.
okay.
What?
We don't need to go into Harry Potter. I don't need to
That's
be flamed
also
for that one.
on my honorable mentions. Is like Harry Potter, all of the movies.
Okay.
Probably the best one is either number 4 or I'm a sucker for number 6. So
Wait, which one is 4?
Goblet of Fire.
That one's the Goblet of
Okay.
Fire.
I do like that one. I've seen up to 4, and then we got to the Order of the Phoenix, and I fell off, both books and movies.
Gosh dang it, Carter Marshall.
I hear it gets better 6, but the reason I bring this all up is I watched the newest Mission Impossible. I think it's called Dead Reckoning. I didn't know it was a 2-part movie, and my dad was like, yeah, like, let's watch this movie. I'm like, okay, sweet. We get to the end. It starts like slowing down, and like, okay, this is the end of the movie, but things just didn't close. And at the end, it's like, all right, like, stay tuned for a part 2. And I realized at that moment, I'd rather not watch a movie sometimes than have to wait for a second part to come out. And I was so upset. And I will say Dune gets a pass because, like, they didn't surprise you with it. They're like, this is going to be a part 2. But like Mission Impossible is like, surprise, you're unhappy and unsatisfied. And so that is my side rant for the night. I hate 2-part movies because I'm just gonna forget what happened in the first movie by the time the second one comes out. Like,
It's
they
true.
just hate joy. And they're terrible people. So if you make movies, don't hurt my soul like that. And that being said, we'll go on to my number 1 movie.
Here's what I hate. Let me tell you this. I dislike when a franchise just continuously makes movies for the sake of making movies when the
Mission
plot
Impossible.
is completely
Fast and
lost.
Furious.
Like Mission Impossible, Fast and Furious.
Star
Great
Wars.
examples. Like Star Wars is becoming that way. They're groping at straws, Disney. There was another example I had in my mind, but I forgot
Marvel.
about it. Yeah, kind of Marvel,
Kind
I
of,
guess.
to an extent.
It's like the franchises where they make the same movie over and over again, just reskinned, basically, and with a new soundtrack. So, like, Fast and Furious is probably the most, like, obvious pick, or
Heinous.
Mission Impossible. Just absolute, not good, just grabbing at money. Just like, trying to get all the money they can. Just a big old cash cow. Just being... The horse is just beyond dead. It's decomposed, and they're still kicking it. It's insane. So that's what I hate. I just hate when people are like, so loyal to this franchise that's just pumping out terrible content over and over again. It's just the worst. It's terrible. It's so greedy, and it gets me angry. I wake up with anger in the morning thinking about it.
They still get my money though, which is really frustrating. Like,
I know,
consistently.
that's the worst part. That's the
That's
worst
the
part
hard part
about it.
about it.
I mean, Despicable Me. That's one. There's like 4 of those
Oh.
for no reason, and 2 Minions movies. Like, what are we doing?
There's a second Minions
Dude,
movie.
but you gotta love the Minions though.
Shut up, Dallas. You're right. They are pretty funny though. I do have to give it to you. You gotta love the Minions though.
I think if I were to say I had a pet peeve, it's just if it has a bad plot. Like if I'm gonna sit through a movie and it just like the story's bad.
I hate when the movie is bad.
Okay, listen. There's this movie I watched once on Netflix.
My biggest
And I
pet
wish-
peeve. I hate bad
It's a
movies.
bad movie. Dude, listen.
So
Once
true.
I explain the plot of this movie, you're gonna understand exactly what I'm saying and agree
Do I know that?
TMI.
Have I watched this movie?
I hope not.
Give it to me.
The plot of this movie is that these students are like in college studying to become archaeologists or something like that, and their
Terrible.
teacher goes missing. Oh no. So what do? They go to the last known spot where they said he was gonna go caving, And they go to the spot, spend a couple weeks, city's been gone. They don't tell anyone where they're going. And they take these ropes and they go down into this cave. And they have, some troubles getting down there, but eventually they do. And then they find the professor. And he's like, I've only been down here for a couple hours. And they're like, nah, Teach, you've been gone for a couple weeks. And he's like,
Whoa.
what? And they find out that time travels differently down in this cave than outside of it. And then it becomes all about the fountain of youth is found in this cave. And there's people from all generations of life that are in this cave looking for this fountain of youth. And then they get out of the cave, and millions of years have passed. All of civilization is off the earth and in space. And then the movie ends.
Whoa.
And if that
What?
doesn't, yeah, it's horrendous.
So that's the worst.
An hour and a half will never get back. But that's an example
Is
of a
that
plot
Time
that
Trap?
just sucks.
You should have just
It
watched
is.
the Lego Batman movie.
I don't think
So,
that movie
speaking
is
of
out yet.
wasting eons, I think I've watched half.
Okay,
of
hold
it.
on. I don't know how we missed
Thumbs
this,
down.
but we gotta talk about one of perhaps the greatest movie franchises in the history of movie franchises. Do you know what I'm thinking about? Somebody tell me they know what I'm talking about.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes!
Yes!
Oh my
okay.
God.
Yes, thank you.
How
So
have we
good.
not talked about this?
So good. I was gonna throw it in as a last second honorable mention. I love this movie series. So
So good.
good.
So
Man.
good. Okay, the first three
Rewatchable.
Pirates of
The
the
CGI?
Caribbean- Oh,
Man.
the way that they did Davy Jones continually impresses me every time I see the movie. It's so good. The first three movies, so good. Curse of the Black Pearl, Dead Man's Chest, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Is that the last one? That's the last one. What's the name
Yeah,
of
that's the newest one.
what's the name
The
of
Edge
number,
of
that's like
Dead
the
Man's
fourth one,
Chest,
right?
and then there's Dead Man's
Um,
Chest, the second one,
Yeah.
and
Or is that
then
the third one?
Edge. The third one is the Edge of the World, or something like At World's End. That's
At
what
World's
it's
End.
called.
That's it. At World's End.
That's the third one.
so
and there's
good.
a fourth.
The fourth one's pretty mid. It's like totally like
That's-
not related.
He's not in it a
basically.
ton.
Yeah, it's like I mean I don't remember the actors' names. Is it Emily Blunt
On Stranger. That's
on Stranger Tides? Yeah, it's like got Blackbeard in it, and it's just like kind of feels totally disconnected. It's missing a lot of the main cast that you're used to. Still, I mean, it's a funny movie. It's a good movie, but the fifth one actually really good. I really like the fifth one.
actually
Quite
brought
good.
it back. Yeah.
They brought it back and they knocked it out of the park. So first three classic, absolute classics. So rewatchable, so entertaining, so funny, really well done, amazing soundtrack. I mean, one of the most classic soundtracks in the history of soundtracks.
Gives me
I mean, come
goosebumps
on.
every time I hear that main theme. It is so good.
So,
I think anyone could recognize it.
oh yeah.
Classic.
All right, let's get into it. Who's gonna go first?
All right, I can start us off. My number one movie is The Martian, starring Matt Damon. I love this movie. It is so good. And the reason I love this movie is that it's all scientifically accurate besides the main plot point of the entire movie, which you might see as a downside, but I just think it's more funny than anything. But essentially the plot is a guy gets left on Mars, and the reason that he gets left on Mars is because there's this huge Martian storm that's going to tip over their space. They're like, oh, if it tips, we're stranded. And so they have to do this emergency takeoff. And on their way to get into the ship, he gets hit by this flying piece of debris, gets knocked unconscious, so his vitals are gone. And they're like, crap, he's dead. We got to leave him. So they leave. And it's essentially this huge story of how he figures out how to live off the land, off the little resources that get left behind, and he makes it back eventually. Spoiler alert, sorry. But it's just super good movie. Fantastic soundtrack. And for having a very dystopian setting in the way of that it's on Mars, they do a great job of filming with these amazing landscapes and amazing visuals, and just a solid movie. You get to see a lot of it's just him and his his story. And so, if you haven't seen it, 100% recommend watching it. It will not be a waste of your time. It is kind of long, but it is a fantastic movie. So it will probably sit in my number one for quite a while because I could watch that movie over and over and over.
It's an excellent movie. You do also notably see Matt Damon's booty butt cheeks in this movie. So
True. Honestly, I wasn't gonna say it, but that's the only reason I watched this movie.
I knew it. I had you pegged the
I
moment
knew
that
it.
you started talking. I knew it.
All I'm
So-
saying is that
I
if
was-
you watch the movie, don't skip to an hour 45 in it. Just don't do that. Whatever you do.
He got the timestamp tattooed on his lower back. Carter does.
You know, with
Tell
it
people
being in
about it.
space, I was gonna say it's a very visually pleasing movie, and I stand by that.
Oh my gosh! All right, so we got to put an explicit next to the Spotify of this podcast. At this point, we're in deep. We're rolling deep.
We're
Not for
rolling
children.
deep.
Not and what is it? Not safe for work. NSFW. Yeah, that's us right now.
NSFW.
This is After Hours.
This
That's
is the
a great
After Hour
movie.
podcast.
I mean, you can't get any better than a space movie where a man grows potatoes on Mars. That's, incredible stuff.
He makes water, like
He
scientifically.
makes water.
That's pretty cool.
Great movie.
I like it. All right,
Good
Dallas,
movie.
hit us with your number one.
My number one is Ford versus Ferrari, another Matt Damon movie.
Wow.
We love Matt
Yes,
Damon.
sir. Oh, Matt
Um,
Damon takes 2 shots.
Shout out to Jason Bourne as a series. Excellent movies. Matt Damon
Great series.
does a great job.
They can
Phenomenal
take more
job.
money.
Yeah.
I just love these movies. I saw Ford versus Ferrari for the first time in theaters with my family. I think it's just a phenomenal, inspiring story. I think Matt Damon and Christian Bale do a really great job of portraying Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles. And I think that the rivalry between Ford and Ferrari is very interesting. Kind of watch and see that kind of be rolled out as the film goes on. And I'm not even a huge car guy, which I think even more of a testament to how entertaining and how good this movie is. I think it's just the acting's great, the story's great. Story gets you every time. The ending does, and yeah, I just think that every part of this movie is phenomenal. So Ford versus Ferrari is my number one.
It's a good movie.
I've only seen the first 50% of this movie, and it was pretty good. So I need to go back and finish the other half of it. So
Definitely worth
do.
the watch.
it's kind of long.
True.
But you
But
know what?
it's Ferraris
Nothing
and
wrong with
Fords,
that.
dude.
It is Ferraris
That's
and
right.
Fords. Christian Bale, great actor. Also, honorable mention, The Dark Knight trilogy. Excellent.
Okay.
movies.
Okay, add on to that. What do you call it when Batman skips church? Christian Bale's.
I was gonna get that. That was good.
That was my next guess.
I was gonna say Bad Man.
Bad
good too.
man.
He's a bad man.
It fits.
All
Go to
right.
church.
Yeah, go to church, people. All right.
Here we go. Last but
Close
not
this
least,
out.
my number one movie of all time. Let me just say, I saw a video the other day talking about why Denzel Washington is one of the greatest actors of all time. And I can't help but agree that he's an amazing actor. And so he's probably, one of my favorite actors of all time. And my favorite movie is one of his movies. And it is called Magnificent Seven.
Yes, sir.
This is a Western movie, kind of like a modern Western movie. It was made
let me double check this. It came out in 2016. So starring Denzel Washington, Chris Pratt, and Ethan Hawke are the most notable names in this movie. I love this movie so much because of the story and also because of the action. The just like the world of Western movies is one of my favorite genres of movie to watch. Dallas is gone. I don't know what happened. He's gone. He's left.
Boy.
I'm listening.
Man, he's listening. He's listening. He's with us. He's still with us. Denzel Washington does really well in this movie. He looks great in this movie. He acts as Sam Chisholm, a warrant officer in Wichita, Kansas, and 7 other states. Chris Pratt, just kind of like a rogue guy.
Can I add a little sentence to that?
Yeah.
I really love Chris Pratt's character in this one. Honestly, because it's similar to Star-Lord's, going back to that. But I just like in the aspect of like he always has like a trick up his sleeve. Like, spoiler alert, he dies in this movie, but like the way that he dies is just like super epic. Like he kind of just I don't know, he kind of just goes out with a bang and kind of brings it home. But
Yeah,
I really like this
I agree.
movie. 100%.
He does. I think it does a good job of being like solemn and serious, but at the same time not taking itself too serious and being like pretty funny as well.
It's in the same genre, not genre, but it's the same idea as Rogue One, the Star Wars movie, where you've got this
Yeah.
cast of people, these main characters, these heroes who all come from different backgrounds, are all very different. I mean, in Rogue One, you've got these two buddies. One of them is this guy who's blind and is really tapped into the Force and doesn't use any weapons other than his staff. And his friend is this big guy who uses this giant machine gun. And they go around together and they join this group of rebels. Basically, one of these people on this squadron in Rogue One is a deserter from the Empire, and so it's a similar thing in Magnificent Seven. You've got this warrant officer who's got these warrants on a bunch of people, and you've got Chris Pratt's character Faraday, who's kind of like a drunkard, who's kind of a goofy guy who's just going around. He's trying to get his horse back, and you've got all these people, and they come together as unlikely companions to accomplish a goal that they know they're likely to fail at and seemingly is impossible. But because they all set aside their own personal well-being and lives, they succeed. And it's a great movie. It's a great message, I think, too. And it's so funny. Magnificent Seven is so funny to me. There's so many good quotes, such good characters. All the characters, the main ones, are so funny in their own way. It's one of my favorite. It's my favorite movie of all time.
I think it does a great job
Every
of
character
like,
is definitely unique. Sorry to cut you off. I was going to say I love that every character is unique and has its own kind of cool backgrounds, kind of like what you were explaining. But every character adds to the story in a good way.
I agree to that. And in addition, I feel like it's really easy for like westerns to fall into like really like cliche things. Like I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there's a lot of just like western cliches that I think are super frugal in westerns, but I think it does a really good job of kind of stepping away from those and kind of being very unique. Because honestly, like in addition to that, I can't think of like too many westerns made within like the last 5-10 years. Like this is like the best western like of all time. Like I love this movie. And just super solid. And I think they did a really great job of this one.
I love in this movie and in Rogue One, especially how there are stakes, and the stakes are realized too. So, I mean, you go into it and you're like, oh, they've got, these really dangerous tasks that they're going to do and they're probably going to fail. But you're like, oh, it's a movie about these heroes. They're probably going to be fine, probably going to do the impossible. But no, in Rogue One and in this movie, spoiler alert, half of the main characters die. And in Rogue One, all of them die, which is crazy and awesome to me. It's like what Marvel did with Infinity War. They totally subverted everyone's expectations by Thanos winning in Infinity War. I mean, obviously in Endgame, when they came back and the superhero thing, they ended up, winning, right? But there were still stakes. People died, and it makes the movie feel like it has weight, like it matters, like what's happening in the movie is actually important. And so I think it's a masterpiece. It's a great movie. So that's my number one. Now here's the question.
Any movie.
No, go ahead, Dallas. I'll ask after you.
I was just gonna add that super quick. I think any movie that can subvert your expectation in a satisfying way instantly bumps it up from a good movie to a great movie. And that's just something I love to look for in movies. And I think that's also adds to that Forrest Ferrari being my number one. I think, for those who haven't seen at the end, you would think oh, Ken Miles probably wins this race. And I think in the hearts of, everyone that was there that watched the movie, he does win. But in the movie, he doesn't win. He comes in second place because he kind of got cheated out of it. So that's kind of a subversion of expectation. But any movie that does that well, not like a cheesy, dumb way, but in a satisfying way, I think turns into a great movie. I think Magnificent Seven does a great job of that as well.
I agree. I think subverting expectations in general is a very good standard for making something that is entertaining, whether it's funny. I mean, comedy in general is subverting expectations, right? Most comedic jokes or when something is funny is when you expect something to happen a certain way and it doesn't happen that way and it happens totally differently, or someone says something that you totally didn't expect and it catches you off guard and it's really funny. Or in movies when something becomes interesting when you don't expect it to end a certain way. That's how it is with Knives Out. You're totally not expecting it to end the way that it does, and the person being guilty being the person that it was, and totally expected it to go this other way, and it didn't go that way. And so you're like, oh wow, that's crazy, they totally got me. That was super interesting. Now I want to go back and figure out how that happened and see that again. So
very, very captivating.
Yeah,
100%.
Exactly. Now here's my question. If you were to make a movie, what kind of movie would you make? Action, comedy, rom-com, perhaps?
I know my answer.
Sci-fi, fantasy?
Mine would definitely be more along the mystery sci-fi kind of route.
Okay.
Because I think kind of along, we were talking about subverting expectation. I think that, when you watch a mystery, you're trying to figure it out and it's constantly subverting your expectation. And there are things that you don't expect to happen. And kind of throwing the sci-fi element as well. It kind of adds, this different element to it. I love watching the mystery sci-fi TV shows that are out there. And I think that it's just very, very interesting to watch, very captivating. So that would be what I would say.
Yeah, that would be sweet. That's cool. Carter, any thoughts?
I think for me, I would probably go along a similar route of Hunt for the Wilder People. I really enjoy the different uses of cinematography, or not uses of cinematography, but the uniqueness of that cinematography. Similar to Wes Anderson in the way of you can get these really cool shots that kind of display a different type of weirdness to a circumstance or situation. And so I think I would really enjoy making these super weird lines of dialogue that kind of flow together to make this awkward but also kind of funny storyline. So it would probably have elements of action, but a lot of it would more be along the lines of comedy, comedy, but mostly a mockumentary. I love the mockumentary format. I'm not the biggest fan of The Office and those movies. I understand that why they're funny, but like kind of taking ideas from that and making it its own thing. Like I don't know if you guys have seen it, but if you guys ever get a chance to watch What They Do in the Shadows, I think they do a fantastic job. The movie, the old movie. I haven't seen the TV show. But it is hilarious. It's a mockumentary, and I don't know, it's just golden. It's hilarious, and so I'd probably do something along the lines of that.
I totally agree. That's exactly what I was thinking too. Like, have you seen? I'm pretty sure both of you have seen this movie. I just thought it came to my mind. Logan Lucky.
So,
Have
I
either
don't
of you
think I've
seen
seen either of those movies.
I have not seen the one you were talking about, Carter, but Logan Lucky is just a really goofy, really weird movie. I mean, it has Adam Driver as one of the main characters. It's a comedy.
Oh, I've seen bits and pieces.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this weird movie where you've got these characters who all are just super weird, got these weird little things about them, and they're in like weird scenarios. I can't remember a lot of the plot. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember watching it and just being like, this is so odd and strange, but so funny because it's so odd and so strange. And just like the attitude that all these, you know, characters are approaching their weird lives as if they were normal, kind of like that. Yeah, I really like the mockumentary style as well. I think it's super funny. I would definitely make something along those lines. I just think for me, one of my favorite types of comedy is when very odd characters are placed in very odd situations and have to figure out how to like accomplish a certain goal or get out of this situation, like Hunt for the Wilder People, right? You got these two very strange in their own way characters who are unlikely companions. You've got this kid who's like this city kid, an orphan, you know, thinks he's a gangster, acts like a gangster, is really just like this little kid. And then you've got this old man who hates people, hates everything, hates this kid at first, and really surly. And they're stuck together, and they eventually become, you know, best friends, right? And they are stuck in the wilderness, and you just watch them go through all these weird things and get chased by, you know, CPS, and it's so funny. So I would definitely make something like that too.
I like it. Such
That was a good
such
question.
good ideas. Yeah, I do like that.
Well,
Well, what do
there's
you
our
guys
list.
think? We would love to comments. Sorry, the delay got weird there for a second, but we'd love to hear what you guys think. Whose list did you agree with the most? Whose is the worst list that you would never want to watch any of those movies? Like, what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to listen to what we had to say today. We always appreciate your guys' time and, you know, taking this time to appreciate some good movies with us.
If you haven't seen it, if you take anything away from this episode, go watch Lego Batman.
Amen.
Doesn't matter how old you
Amen
are,
and amen.
how old you are, where you're from, or anything else. Just take the time. It's only like an hour and a half. It's the best hour and a half you'll ever spend. Just go watch it. It's great.
I don't think we could leave on a better note. With that, thanks for listening, and
Amen.
we'll catch you next time.